Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined by Josh Bowe. You are coming to us. It's about 10 o'clock on Thursday, February 5th, also known as Trade Deadline Day. Josh, how are you?
Doing okay. Yeah, that was a game. That was a trade deadline. I guess we're ready to talk about it.
Yeah.
I will say, watching the game, had that nice little post trade. It was very obvious that this deadline needed to happen and get by. Like that game was more fun to watch. And I don't know if that's like the weight of everything lifted. Like Najee Marshall playing awesome as soon as he realizes he's not getting like. I have to wonder if the last couple of games, trade deadline stuff was getting to these guys. So they were playing free and they were playing hard like they always do. They couldn't win because they're just not as good as the Spurs, which is okay. But yeah, I noticed a different vibe on the floor, even though the Mavericks lost.
Yeah, it was another classic 2025-26 Dallas Mavericks game where you just keep waiting for them to get thumped and it doesn't actually happen. The Spurs were very clearly monitoring the minutes of certain guys. Stephon Castle only played 22 minutes. He might have been, I think he was coming back from an injury. And he was
Harper only played 19.
Right. Harper too. Stephon Castle plus 27 in 22 minutes. That's ridiculous. And you know, the Victor Wembanyama minutes were, obviously he ends up with a brilliant stat line, 29, 11, and 6, but a lot of that came late. Which is fine. Like that's when you want it to come, but it really felt like the Spurs, had they chosen to sort of put their foot on the gas earlier, might have been able to bury the Mavericks. Only every time they did so, the Mavericks would make just their standard little rally here and there. It was, we can probably sound like broken records to some extent, but it was fairly entertaining to watch, which is kind of all I could hope for at this point in time. I was very interested in seeing Flagg going up against the Spurs defense, going up against Victor Wembanyama, and he did not disappoint once again.
No, Cooper was awesome. What, a fourth straight game over 30 points, which I think that's. I mean, he's setting every teenager record right now. Like, so anytime he does something awesome, just assume he's the first teenager to have done it.
I think it's fair. Well, he did a lot of tonight's game was really back out the offense. I thought his defensive game was fun in a way that we've not, because he doesn't get quite as many, at least this season, the sort of stocks stat that I would have thought. And some of that's just due to the nature of how they've played. But 3 blocks and 2 steals tonight. Pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. His game was awesome. Wembanyama is impossible. The Mavericks shot 10 of 21 in the restricted area. That's about a little over 47%. That's about almost 20 percentage points lower than the league average. So yeah, like Wemby made a difference. But the cool thing is the Mavericks shot 17 of 29 in floater range, which is absurd. That's like 12 points over league average because Najee and Cooper, I think, both understood early, okay, we can't get all the way there, but what if we stopped a little shorter, but we're still at the paint and let's use our floater game. And obviously Najee was awesome. And then Cooper was great in picking his spots and kind of feeling out the Wemby of it all. Cause there were definitely moments where it was like, oh, okay, I can't do this. Cause Wemby I can't do this move, or I can't get to the basket. I can't shoot this shot because of Wemby. But then you could see as he adjusted, like as the game went on, he was like, okay, I can get here. Like I can get my shot off here. If I stop at this part of the floor, I'm still close. I'm still in my groove. I could shoot from here, but I can't get any closer. And that's the Wemby effect. Like the Spurs probably would love that teams are shooting more away from the restricted area and in the floater range, because traditionally that's an inefficient shot for a lot of guys. Cooper and Najee being awesome at it obviously kind of works in the Mavericks' favor. And I thought those two kind of really utilized that to their advantage, and I think they picked their spots pretty well. The Mavericks didn't lose this game because of their offense. They actually they made a lot of shots. They were 8 of 16 from mid range. They made 39% of their threes. They made shots. They could not stop the Spurs.
Well, I mean, the Spurs and the Mavericks ended up shooting 31 threes, but I'm pretty sure they shot 20 of those in the second half after like a 12. Like they just play an offense, which if your defense isn't there, you're just, there's not going to score enough points. I know it sounds silly in a game where they scored 123, but they were right there with the Spurs and then they weren't. I mean, there was like 3 plays in the end that didn't go their way. That Daniel Gafford where he's trying to finagle his way around Wemby and then gets blocked, like that was the game for me. But you know, it's hard to complain too much because you know, the trade deadline moves happened today. There's one more. We'll get to that after the break for the Mavericks. And you can start to see kind of the pieces of who they're going to try to build towards next year. You know, you throw in Bagley in this mix. What does that look like? You throw in, I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see the new look Mavs, but you know, the group that we've had for the past several games, even though they keep losing, it's at least entertaining. I don't know. Max Christie and Klay Thompson once again just being ass from 3 is gonna really hurt your team. Like they just don't win unless those two are not on fire, but are shooting like just above their average. I mean, Christie was 2 of 8, and Klay was 1 of 6. Like 3 of 14 from your best 3-point shooter is not going to do it.
Yeah, when and especially on a team that doesn't have good, like those are the shooters. Like if those guys aren't making shots, I mean, it's kind of a miracle the Mavericks shot as well as they did from 3 with those two combining to shoot what they shot. Like Najee and Cooper are both barely over 30% from 3, and those two combined to go 6 of 12.
Yep,
basically. So like that's an outlier shooting performance that if Klay and Max got closer to their normal selves, like the Mavericks probably win because you get that outlier, because you know you need something like that. You need an outlier to when you're this much of an underdog. You know, you need something unexpected, and they got that from Cooper and Najee's 3-point shooting, but then the rest of the guys didn't really pull through. Another thing I want to mention before we move off Flagg, his scoring was great. You know, he did a really good job, like we said, adjusting on how to score in the paint with Wemby and kind of figuring that out in real time. I think his last like 5 or 6 games have been like the best passing games of the season for him. The assist totals aren't going to show it, but he's making the right reads. He's seeing the floor very well. And I'm just impressed because, again, this is not – he's doing all the stuff that we thought would take him a couple of years, like right now. And it's kind of terrifying because it's like, what's he going to look like in a couple? Like, I mean, what's he going to look like in March? What's he going to look like in April? What's he going to look like in October later this year, November? Like, he's just progressing at such a rapid rate. And I think, you know, he only had 4 assists tonight and 3 turnovers, which isn't like, that doesn't look good, but I felt like more often than not, he's been making the right play with the pass.
2 of the turnovers happened in the first quarter. And I remember them. They were kind of like he threw, maybe this is the second quarter. He threw what looked to be an alley-oop to the shortest Dallas Maverick. And then the Spurs just poked it out of the air. It's like, well, what are you doing, brother? Don't do that. Yeah. So it's, there's definitely situations like that feel a little goofy with him. I did want to say this just while I'm thinking about it, because I know we're kind of going to move away from the game because, you know, it's kind of the same game. It's very like this, and I mean this in a, I sound a little snarky every time I talk about Victor Wembanyama because I can't help myself, but he shot 14 field goals, 9 were from 3. And so you're looking at that, God, why is that guy shooting 9 3? You know, why is he shooting more 3s than he is 2? It's 2s. Well, first of all, he hit 5 of 9 from 3, and then he hit 4 of 5 from 2. I thought the Mavericks did a pretty good job of pushing him off of his 2-point spots. Like,
yeah, he's got to work on that. I mean, they put Caleb Martin on him. And teams are doing that. Teams are putting. He did a really good job of just like he ended the game with 3 turnovers for as much as he had the ball, but he did a really nice job of waiting for the second and sometimes the third guy before getting rid of the ball. And that's just, you know, we watched this with Porzingis, another real tall dude. Porzingis didn't move the ball. Porzingis can hold on to the damn thing. No, yeah, he plays within the offense, which is admirable. But I mean, there were stretches in that second half where like he just wasn't hurt from. And like if Caleb Martin can neutralize your offensive game, then there's still some things you got to work on. Obviously he's great. Sure. I mean, and defensive, like it doesn't even matter because defensively he's just, it's insane that you just don't get rim shots or you don't make rim shots when he's on the floor.
They leave, like the score was tight, but like the margin for error for the Spurs was pretty massive.
Yeah, it felt like they were playing with their food.
Yes,
during this game.
I actually tweeted the same thing you've been saying for weeks now, which was essentially, can opposing teams' coaches just put at the top of the scouting report, these guys play real hard. Stop being surprised. Right. That's really what it comes down to. Is that they're just looking around. I mean, the end of the first quarter, it was 38-35 because the Mavericks just kept coming. Now they couldn't defend anything, but that's just sort of indicative of where they've been for the entire season. So,
no, it was. I mean, if you're a Mavericks fan hoping for a good draft pick, this was like a perfect game. Cooper went off. The game was competitive and fun. And then they lost. You hit all the
I will say I needed Moussa Cisse in the game a little more. I know he picked up 3 fouls in 12 minutes, but I don't care. Like I want to get burned on him. One of the things, I knew this, but I didn't really complain about it too much because when you're talking about two-way players, it really does feel like kind of like loser energy. But one of the things that sort of vexed me about what the Mavericks have done this year with their two-way guys, particularly Cisse and Nembhard, is they keep having them on the active roster, which burns one of their 50 games of eligibility. These guys have like 9 games left. Like it's I don't want to say it's bleak because they just made some trades and I honestly can't remember if they have any open rostered spots. It's been a busy couple of days at work, but they've just sort of in this situation where I'm going, like, you're telling me you couldn't see this coming around game, like when Anthony Davis went down in game 5. Like, you got to start managing your assets better. And this is it's just annoying. I mean, I know like the right play is for them to continue to lose games, but if we're going to bring these guys up, Nembhard and Cisse, let's give them, like, why are we playing Najee Marshall 39 minutes? Why are we playing Max Christie 38 minutes? Like, what is it? Mild criticisms. I know I probably sound a little ridiculous. Like, they keep losing games. They're doing what we ultimately want them to, but it's just I don't know. It feels weird.
No, I understand. As the president of the Moussa Cisse fan club, I would love if they just ripped the Band-Aid off and was like, let's see what he does first. Play 25 minutes or foul 6 times. Like, I just kind of want to see it.
Okay, because if you got Gafford and if you got Powell, that's your other minutes there. And like Powell played 2 minutes just to give him breathing room. Shout out to Powell being a -8 in 2 minutes. That's tough business, Dwight. Yeah. Oh well. Okay, let's go to a quick break. We'll come back and talk about the rest of the trade deadline. You know the way this is to support the show. Listen to the ads. Quite literally send us money in those links if you're feeling generous, and tell your friends about the show. We're kind of growing tick by tick in terms of YouTube subscribers, which is nice. We've just been sort of stagnant for a while. I know it's a tough time to watch the Mavs, but Josh and I we'll attempt to get creative here in the second part of the season, particularly with some of the draft guys we have coming. The Dallas Mavericks have 2 draft picks in the 2026 draft, so there's a variety of things you can be interested in now. That's fun. Mm-hmm. All right. We will be right back. Okay. Thanks so much for sticking with us. Obviously, it was trade deadline day, and it's so funny. You guys all know this. Josh and I, literally, this is our hobby job. Like, we make a little money off this, but it is not our day job. So the fact that both of us had busy yesterday and then busy today, that doesn't happen quite like that, but it is kind of it is kind of funny because we're here before the show and Josh goes, oh, it's so nice the Mavericks didn't make any moves today, and I was like, wait a minute, they traded for Tyus Jones. No, it's fine, it's funny. Tyus Jones, that he got rerouted. I'm not Tyus Jones. Malachi Branham got rerouted from the Wizards to the Mavericks back to the Hornets. He stays in the Eastern Conference. So long, didn't know much about you beforehand. Definitely don't need to know about you now. Jones comes to the Mavericks. He's their 5th Duke guy now on the roster, which I like that. Just maybe they have 6. They might actually have 6. I saw a graphic earlier today, but my brain is mashed potatoes. Apparently, Tyus Jones was one of the guys they were trying to get in the offseason, only he signed a deal with the Magic worth more than the Mavericks could pay because they were basically stuck to the veteran minimum. And now that they've moved around some money, they had the ability. I think they absorbed him into that trade exception.
They just rerouted him for Branham.
Was Branham costing $7 million?
I
guess it doesn't matter because if Malachi,
I don't know. Well, we'll check CBA Mavs if he's doing.
Let's just go. Who cares? Yeah. I will say like that Jones is a guy that the Mavericks have been talking about for a long time because he's just an efficient backup-ish guard. This is a guy who's played over 700 career games. He averages about 7 points and 4 assists. And his real hallmark is he just doesn't turn the ball over. Doesn't turn the ball over. Okay, thank you for that. Two Thumb Chum says $5 million, so he must be still on his rookie deal. So they were able to make that work. Overall, this is a nice little trade for the Mavericks because as we've seen, the Mavericks keep playing these games and that they need another guard. They're making it work, but they're not winning. But I think like maybe the games will continue to be fairly watchable. I want to say Tim Cato said this today. I saw something, my brain's a little brain rot, and that the Mavericks would be interested in trying to keep him after this season, which I don't really know how that works. I don't think you get bird rights for 1-year players. But he's a fine guy to have is where I'm at. I'm like neither positive nor all that negative. The repercussions kind of around the league about this trade yesterday or about all the Mavericks stuff have been pretty funny. I think what I've learned is that no one really understands what the second apron does to a bad team because if you're in the second apron, you're not supposed to be a bad team. That's really what.
Right.
Like, did you? I learned this today. I think maybe we discussed this last night. My brain is just so tired. If you're over the second apron for 3 straight years, your first round draft pick automatically goes to the end of the draft.
Yes.
That's insane to me. Like, what the fuck? I mean, but if you're making, if you're going to the finals, you're already 30. I don't know.
I know it's very funny.
Anyway, so what I talked a lot there. What are you thinking?
No, that's fine. I saw some reaction to the Tyus Jones being like, he's going to hurt the tank. And I was like, I don't think you guys have watched a lot of Tyus Jones in the last 18 to 24 months. Mm-hmm. Not to say he's like a bad player. He's obviously been awful in Orlando. But it seems like that Orlando is where offensive guards go to die. Yeah. But even at his peak, he is just competent backup point guard. Like that's what he's been. He's not going to swing the tanking race. Like maybe the Mavericks win a game they shouldn't because their turnovers are a little bit better. But someone was like, he's going to cost us like 1 to 2 losses. And I was like, I don't think Tyus Jones is a 1 to 2 win difference maker. Like that's a lot. Like that's saying a lot for this guy who again is not bad, but it's just, he's just another like role player. And they just need like you said, they need warm bodies at point guard. And they need even if your objective isn't to win games, you still need to have structure and a semblance of organization. And Cooper Flagg needs someone to pass him the ball. You can't develop. You don't want to lose and develop bad habits at the same time because it's already easy enough to develop bad habits when you're losing. So you need to try to take as much of those temptations away. And having a competent veteran point guard that will probably come off the bench just helps. Again, he's not going to make the Mavericks are not going to vault into 10th place with him, but also it's going to make lives easier for a lot of guys just process wise and take some pressure off some guys as well. So yeah, it's a fine deal if they want to keep him past this season. That makes sense because I don't know, are they bringing back Brandon Williams? Do they want to bring back Brandon Williams? What are they going to do with Ryan Nembhard? It's fine, having him back as their backup point guard next season, presumably for a salary number that's close to what he's making right now, which is $7 million. That's not going to kill your books, especially with what they've done. So yeah, the Tyus part of it, that's my thought on Tyus. I don't know what else there is to say, but
no, I think we do some maybe a little bit more follow-up from last night. So Mark Stein said today he doesn't foresee Chris Middleton getting bought out. I had heard something different. Ultimately, I would like him to be a Maverick because I think he would help with just making it through these last 30 games in a kind of difficult environment. But if he does, I think they'll probably do what a veteran of his accolade and career would like. I mean, he's making $33 million. I don't know what the prorated version of that is on a 30 game stance, and if the Mavericks would be fine with that. I mean, that's the money. We don't really care about that. If they do that, that would open up a spot to bring in one of those guys, the two-way guys that we were talking about in the first half of the show. And I can't remember the roster size right now. I'm not going to do any math in my head, but the thinking about the tanking element, or just like, oh, we need the Mavericks to lose games. Like, look, they don't play a game at home until February 26th. It is February 5th. That is 3 weeks to the day. Now, some of those are against bad teams. They right after All-Star break, they play the Pacers, Brooklyn, and Sacramento. And then Memphis. So yeah, there are going to win some games in there, but that's the nature of things. I mean,
the Mavericks have lost 6 in a row. They are losing.
And the Wizards beat Detroit tonight. Like, weird stuff happens all the time. And I think I'm just too old now to get too puckered up over this sort of thing. I remember when the Mavericks, the year after 2018, 2019. Yeah, I don't know. It was a year where we thought that if the Mavericks had basically had one slot in difference in the ping pong balls, they would have had a chance to draft Ja Morant or Zion Williamson. Yeah. And we were all so mad at this one Memphis game where Salah Mejri went off. I'm just not going to do that anymore. This is just not really my deal.
Right. No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that. What, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 straight road games? That's hilarious. Their schedule's finally evening out because it's kind of ridiculous what their schedule's been like up till this point.
It's just so funny. It's so many home games, and then they just play all these on the road. I mean, I could do a quick count here for the rest of the year. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They have 11 home games, and that the season doesn't end until April 12th.
Yeah.
Well, we say this because the Mavericks have been shit on the road.
Right.
It's traditional. They are. I can't even remember how bad they are on the road. It doesn't really matter. It's just that they are
5-15 on the road.
They're not going to be that bad in the year, but it's still something else. Okay, so just some kind of closing thoughts here, and we'll close, and I'll head to group therapy if anybody wants to do it. If not, I don't blame you. The Saturday night game is a 5 p.m. start time on Amazon Prime, which is kind of nice. But then heading into the All-Star break, we get kicked in the balls twice with 2 late starts, a Tuesday and a Thursday game in Phoenix and in Los Angeles. So just sort of gird your loins for that one, gentlemen. And ladies who are out there watching the Mavericks. I'm going to be curious to see what Josh and I decide to do. I may be asking our some of our draft guys to pop in here in some of these games and talk about what's ahead with guys you want to watch. I did have one of my Twitter followers today say, hey, I guess I ought to pay attention to the draft. So what do you recommend? And I'm just going to say this now for the chat and for anybody listening. Go to Google, type in MavsMoneyball.com and then the word draft. And the first or second thing will come up is literally our draft hub. And we've had stuff in there every week. We're probably writing 3 to 4 things a week that are draft adjacent because we have a couple of dudes that just love watching college basketball. And this will be a fun draft to form overly ridiculous opinions on. It's worth, which Jamal Mashburn, said those things last week that got me all heated, but there's a reason he's excited. And it's because some of these guys are preposterous. So
now that the deadline's done, we're about to see a absurd tank off for these last 2 months.
Somebody in the chat said the Jazz just really went for it.
They did.
Man. So, well, all right. I'll let you get on with your evening because you volunteered to write a quick stats post, and then there's a few other things coming. We'll be back on Saturday night. There's not any more emergency podcasts coming for the rest of the year, unless the Mavericks get sold again.
Why would you say that out loud?
There are no emergent. Well, look, hey, the Mavericks getting sold again. not the worst thing. All right, everybody be good. This has been Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. Hang out for group therapy. We'll be right back. Go Mavs. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Pod Mavericks Group Therapy. This is our secondary after show that you can join if you're unfamiliar with it. You're probably not unfamiliar with it because this is really just a show for sickos. But again, the link is in the YouTube stream. You can click on it, and it is really easy to join, and I actually think kind of fun. Before we get started, I just want to tell Dallas area locals this. This is kind of incredible. A Twitter account, football writer for named Zach Barnett shared this NFL MVP from Highland Park, NFL Offensive Player of the Year, Rockwall High School, NFL Defensive Player of the Year, Arlington Martin. So Texas football. Anyways, not a football podcast, but I just find it amazing. Coming up first is Ash Boying, but if anybody else wants to hop in, all you do is got to click that button. Hey, buddy, what's up?
Off the top of your head, can you name those three guys?
Oh yeah, because it's Matthew Stafford, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and somebody who I would like to try out for the Dallas Mavericks, and Miles Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely.
Miles Garrett is one of the most impressive athletes in the history of humankind. Just I watched him at Summer League one year and was like, that dude is too short to play professional basketball, but holy shit.
Yeah, he's a really good athlete, but man, Smith and Jigba was just sick when I saw him in high school. So I mean, just they'd have five guys covering him and still.
He had 2,200 yards his senior year.
Yeah, I mean he beat Allen by himself in the playoffs at AT&T Stadium. It was.
Well, what are you thinking? What do you think? You had some Tyus Jones comments in the chat, but I wasn't really paying attention because I'm
okay. Well, I think that Tyus Jones is a professional point guard, and I think that Tyus Jones is going to help Cooper Flagg and Max Christie's development immensely because he knows how to get a team into an offense. He knows, as a professional point guard, he could, he senses who's hot, who's not hot, who needs the ball, who doesn't need the ball. And in Washington, a season and a half ago, he had 7.3 assists a game. So he is not without some skill. Now, I'd rather have his brother, but he is not without some skill. And I think that he will help develop, some of the guys that we've got that need to develop that have been playing without a point guard. I think it's going to make Najee a little bit better too, because I think Najee spends a lot of energy trying to get everybody into the offense. So
yes.
So I think having a real live point guard is going to be a good thing. Now I'll also say this: Gafford tonight looked 100% better than I've seen him look for a while, and I think, quite frankly, I think he's been kind of preoccupied with, am I going to get traded or am I going to stay? And I just think that both him and Najee kind of were able to play free tonight, not worrying about, where am I going to be tomorrow? So, I like that. I still cannot stand the fact that Cooper Flagg cannot get a foul call to save his life. That kid is going to score 40 a game if he starts getting calls. Honestly. I mean, he only shot 2 free throws. Now,
there was one floater in the end.
He was pulling up. Tonight he was pulling up and shooting the floater a little bit more, so he probably wasn't generating as much contact. But still, there was a lot of contact.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I'm almost ignoring entirely because the back of my head, I'm sitting here thinking it's fine if the Mavericks lose.
Well, it is fine if the Mavericks lose. I guess what I'm trying to say is that next year, when he should be getting those calls, he's going to be just maybe well nigh unstoppable as far as generating points, especially if he can shoot 80% from the free throw line like he has all season.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I want to say, what is going on with Max Christie in the last 5 games? He's shooting 21% from three.
I mean, but that directly followed the Mavericks winning 4 in a row with him shooting like 62% from three.
I understand that, but I just, I guess I'm looking for a little bit more consistency out of
Josh said something, or was it you? Somebody said something the other night about how where he has to improve is off of movement because his catch and shoots are looking pretty good. And then if he's having to do anything with the ball, there's just a little bit more variance in the way his shot looks. And, Mr. Rodriguez in the chat says shooters will have slumps. I agree with that. But I also watched one on Tuesday night where he looked like a field goal kicker shanking a field goal wide left, like it missed the rim by a solid 2 feet. It's just like there's just some oddness going on. And I don't know, maybe it is trade adjacent where these guys are all sort of wondering in the back of their heads. You never know how these sort of things affect players.
No, you don't. The guys are wondering who's going to be here, who's not, especially on a team like this that, everything you've heard in the media, it was Mavs might make 4 or 5 trades at the deadline. And, everybody's kind of looking around going, who's going to be here, who's not. And that's got to get in your head. I mean, honestly, where am I going to be tomorrow? So, it looked to me like, this was a game, I think, that if they're not playing a really, really good team, the Mavericks could have won this game tonight, against even a fringe playoff team because, San Antonio is really good. I mean, they really are. And I thought the Mavericks played a pretty good game, all things considered. They just got to learn to win. I mean, they just got to learn that winning is a learning process. It's kind of like, I'm gonna take this back to high school football. Southlake wins a lot of games because they expect to win.
Sure.
And there have been times when I've talked to guys from other high schools that, we're going to beat Southlake this year. And I've told them, well, I just don't think your program's ready to win a game like this.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Mavericks were ready to win a game. It was right there for them in the fourth quarter. I just don't think they were ready to win a game like this. Now, I think that if Kyrie Irving had been, on the floor for the Mavs, everything changes because, he can, kind of do this little follow me guys thing, where he can kind of show them how to win because he's been there and done that, but nobody else has. So it just, it's just a situation where they just got to learn, what it takes. And San Antonio has that 5th year, and right now we do not. So
yes. No, that was very evident. And one of the elements that gets lost in watching this particular Mavs team in that, yes, they are incredibly entertaining to watch considering how bad they are, but they also have nowhere else to go in terms of this is who they are. In hindsight, and honestly, I could be wrong about this, so please tell me if you think I'm wrong about this. I think the 2006-2007 Dallas Mavericks had this problem where they did not have another gear to go to. And so when things started to go sloppy in April into the playoffs, they had no ability to pull out of it. Because they've been playing so hard. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Mavericks started off that season 0-4 and then went 52-4. Like they just went bananas for almost like 3 solid months. And then they started losing and then they ran into a buzzsaw in Golden State in the 8th seed, and then they lost. And that's, I want to make the comparison in that, it's like playing hard is obviously a skill night in and night out in the NBA, but it's like I don't think the Thunder, for example, losing some games like they have been doing is the worst thing for them, because you want to win in the playoffs. Like, yes, like being a record holder is fun, but like I guarantee you the 72 or what is it, 73-9 Warriors would rather have lost 3 more games and won that title. You know,
absolutely. You know, I think that you know there's being too sharp too early is a real thing, because you're going to dull. You know, and so you know you kind of want to maybe start the season a little bit slower. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, you want to win as many games as you can, but you know, it's kind of like when Denny Crum was the coach of Louisville, they seemed to always be peaking going into the NCAA tournament. And they always made a deep run, and you're like, how is he losing 9 games a year when he's always going to the Elite Eight? And you know, it's because he didn't really care about, you know, October and November too much,
right?
Other than trying to figure out who was going to be playing for him in March and April. I mean, you know, in February and March, and so you know, that's what you really got to do. You know, so, and I've lost my second point was that Maverick team that you were talking about was a really good team. The thing about that is that when you looked at their margin of victory, it was very, very low. They won a lot of close games. Okay. And so that means you're having to play all the way to the buzzer. You know, when you watch Oklahoma City, you know, it's kind of like I heard somebody, you know, joking, like, you know, Shea's scoring 30 points. He's only playing 3/4 a game, you know, because they're beating everybody by 20. You want to look at you know, how bad are you beating guys? That's a measure of how good you are in some cases. And you know, when the Mavericks were beating guys by, you know, 2 and 3 points, and you know, winning these close games, you know, a shot here or there, and they're a loser. So, and that's what I think ultimately spelled doom for them in 2006 and 2007. That and the fact that they couldn't guard the 3-point line against Baron Davis. You know.
Oh, sorry, I was distracted by a question in the chat. Yeah, so you know, any post-trade deadline thoughts? Like, since Josh and I didn't go after the Anthony Davis trade yesterday.
Well, I think you've got to really make a decision on Musa Cisse, because you now have Bagley here, who, you know, really could be your third center next year, or Cisse could be your third center. So you're gonna have to make a decision pretty quick on that, and then, you know, if it's going to be Cisse, then you got to go ahead and buy out Bagley, or, you know, just waive him, I guess, because he's on a veteran minimum. Unfortunately, you can't really buy out Middleton, because there's only like 3 playoff teams that can sign him.
I think he might get bought out. I really do.
But who's he going to sign with?
I mean, for what, like minimum-ish type thing, right?
No, he cannot sign with a team that's over the first apron.
Okay, so would it be like did you say earlier the Magic, and then the
Magic, the Magic, the Heat, and the Thunder could all sign him?
God, the Thunder, wouldn't that just make you sick?
actually, for Middleton, I like Middleton. I mean, I just liked him, and
sure,
you know, him getting a gratuitous ring would not hurt my feelings so much as like some other guys in the league.
Right.
Really. I mean, because I don't think he's ring chasing. I think he just wants to play on a team, you know, for meaningful games. And he might, you know, he actually might take a buyout and go play for somebody else that, you know, that's under the first apron. That's not really a playoff team. I don't know if any other teams that are the Lakers over the first apron. Yeah, I guess they are.
No, it's a difficult spot.
So, you know, but, you know, maybe he goes back to Milwaukee and closes out there. I don't know. So, you know, but you know, that I thought immediately when they traded him, well, that's a buyout. And then, you know, actually somebody in the chat, I can't remember who it was. I got to credit that guy, because he's the one that brought up, because I wasn't even thinking about that when we were talking about a buyout. He's the one that brought out that you can't do that, because he's making over the mid-level exception. So,
yeah.
You know, that's the problem there. But, you know, other than that, what do we know about this Johnson guy? Because he was the 23rd pick in the draft.
Just AJ Johnson, his stats are bad, and it feels like a 2K creative player. I know nothing, and I'm not even going to try to. I did get a text from another media member today who pointed out that in 900 NBA minutes, he has 3 blocks, which is very funny because it's almost like you could almost do more than that by accident.
Just by raising your hand.
Like even as a guard. But, he's skinny, he's small. Like I have no feelings. So he's not small. He's just he is a narrow player, and like you'll see him and be like, "That's an NBA player." It's very funny.
Well, so I don't. Other than the fact that I think the trade, don't discount the fact that guys are maybe playing a little bit free now because the black cloud of the trade is kind of gone. So,
yep.
At this point, I don't know what to say to those people that keep saying, well, I just can't move past the trade.
Yeah, me either. I get it. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
Because I think that, with this trade, either you're going to move past it or you're never going to be a Mavs fan again. Honestly.
Yep.
So, move on. The final thing I'm going to say is this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like Dumont may have run a little bit of a con on the NBA, because he was talking about, well, I want to see these 3 guys play together, and AD's going to be healthy, and everything's going to be fine, and everything like that. All the while, he's got his 2 guys, figuring out where to trade him to. So I don't know if maybe he might have run a little bit of a con on the NBA a little bit.
Well, I think we run into a couple of issues here. I think the fact that there's 2 general managers, and there's like multiple points of potential contact, allowed them to sort of operate with just sort of cover of darkness. I mean, Fred Katz of The Athletic, he's a friend of mine. He wrote an article today which basically said that people within the Mavericks knew about the Luka Doncic trade, meaning Riccardi and Finley and other people, and they could not dissuade Nico Harrison. Okay. I say that because I think that these guys have a pretty good grasp of the gravity of what they were trying to do. When Josh and I were bitching yesterday, like I just don't, I can kind of guess who some of the sources are when people are talking about, sources say. I just don't think that these guys are in their positions well enough yet to really have the ears of media people, maybe even though they've tried. And that can really serve to help, because Stein was sort of saying on repeat, and again, he's a friend of mine, so I'm not criticizing him. You can only report what you're told, but whatever sources were telling him were wrong and misleading. And, to go from, the Mavericks are, what do you call it? Like the Mavericks are only willing to do this kind of deal to the day before the trade deadline, or I guess Tuesday, something to the effect of, well, the Mavericks have contracts that other teams don't want. Like, that's a pretty big shift in tonality. Now, again, not from him, because he's only doing what he's reporting. And I find like sometimes these media guys get pushed in I almost feel like that they get used to misdirect. I mean, Stein said it himself that Donnie Nelson's told him more or less that, like, during trade season, if he's talking, then if his lips are moving, then he's lying. So,
Jason Kidd came out one time and said, sometimes I'm not telling you guys the truth. So I get that. Yeah.
Yes, it's really, I don't know. I feel for everybody that has to do this for work, because you're parsing information all the time, and then you have to go with what you can. So the Mavericks essentially operated under cover of darkness. Now, I will say on repeat that I just feel like everyone that's criticizing the Mavericks doesn't understand the second apron. So,
no, I think this was a great trade, honestly. I mean, quite frankly, I was advocating, well, let's just take Porzingis and Kennard back and roll on down the hill, because and the fact that they got some assets, and more amazingly, got off another $12 million, with Hardy and D'Lo. I mean,
yep.
Whoever put this trade together for the Mavericks, and I don't know if we're ever going to find out if it was Finley, if it was Riccardi, or if it was a combination of both of them, knew what they were doing. And the only thing that I can say is, we've been talking about a dysfunctional front office for 3 or 4 months, and the only thing that we've seen from these guys is competence.
Okay, I think that's a fair read.
And so is this front office really dysfunctional, or have we just all been reading it wrong? So, I guess we're going to find out in the next few months. But the only thing that I've seen from these guys is competence. They knew what they knew what the job they needed to do, and they went out and they got it done, and in a spectacular fact, in a fashion that I didn't think they could do. I didn't think they would get any assets back for AD. Well,
and then the next steps that they have to do is they're going to have to try with PJ and Gafford over the summer. That's going to be tough.
I think PJ's going to be easy to trade. I do, because he's really good at basketball, and he's one of those guys that he impacts winning. Where I talk about Tari Eason all the time because I'm just so fascinated with him, because everything he does is impacts winning. I mean, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but he'll need him to go out and guard Shea, or he'll go out and guard Shea. You need to go out and guard Wemby, he'll go out and guard Wemby. You need him to hit a three, he's hitting 40% from three. Really ferocious rebounder. Everything he does impacts winning, and PJ's a lot like that when PJ's head is right. I think maybe if I'm the Mavericks, I might shut him down for the rest of the season and just tell him, hey, you know what, go get your life right.
Sure,
we'll pay you. Go get your life right, and then I'd market him this summer.
That concussion also didn't like that looked.
Yeah. But I think PJ is going to be an in-demand guy for a lot of teams because, quite frankly, he kills the Thunder. And, for the next few years, in order to get to a championship game, you're going to have to go through Oklahoma City. And for whatever reason, PJ just destroys them. And so I think he might be in demand from some folks. I think he might not be that hard to trade. And if Gafford plays the rest of the season like he played tonight, maybe he's pretty easy to trade as well.
All right. Well, I've kept you on here a long time and didn't recognize other guests.
I've kind of monopolized your time, so I'm going to
get off. I mean, it's just you and I for a while.
Start. Oh, was it really? Man.
We'll talk. Talk Saturday, maybe. Have a good one.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye. Leo, what's up, man?
Hey, Mr. Kirk.
How you doing? Long time.
Long time. It's kind of a out of nowhere question, but
sure. You're good.
It's kind of came up on the DLS podcast where one of their writers, Ron, had said,
sure,
a lot of people are looking at the OKC pick, the 30th pick, most likely as a pick that you can get a valuable player like you did back in the day with like your JBs, your Gaff, and you always find good players in the second round. But with how NIL money is working now, you're less likely to see players of that caliber leave school because they can get paid money, but they can find better money while in school. And I don't know if you have any thought on that.
I mean, I can see it, but I'm also not worried. This is a very talented. There's a lot of talented players in college basketball because for a while there, you had guys going the G League route. You had guys taking these kind of weird circuitous paths to get to the NBA. You have overseas guys too. And so what I see in the back 10 picks of the draft, usually by good teams, right? Those good teams are more than willing at that point in the draft to take flyers on potential guys more than anything else. So, and you just go look at like the last 3 or 4 drafts with teams that were already good and see the kind of players that they go for. Because you're taking dart throws. The Thunder are great at taking guys they don't even have to have right now. So if you get the 30th right there, one of the key differences between that and the second round is you are locked into a guy who has like a 4-year contract. That's what they get offered. Second rounders, you can finagle stuff a little bit more, but it's a very inexpensive contract for up to 4 years. And so the Mavericks are going to have the opportunity in that, let's just say 27 to 30 range to pick somebody who will likely fall to them. And that's fine. That's what you want. And you're not old enough for this, but in 2003, the LeBron James draft, a Wake Forest player that I know you know his name, Josh Howard, fell to the Mavericks despite being ACC Player of the Year. He had no business falling that far. Basically, people were worried about his marijuana use habits and stuff like that. But this is the kind of stuff that happens in drafts. Guys fall for reasons that don't make sense. Like I kind of think, and this is just my take on this, like AJ Devanza came into the year as like kind of a consensus top 3, and I think he's gonna go like top 7 because sometimes things happen. Like, so you never know what's gonna happen in a draft. You just never know. Derek Lively went 12th to the Mavericks, and honestly, people thought he's gonna fall further because of injury concerns. Like, drafts are weird. So this is why I constantly talk about bites at the apple. The Mavericks just need that. So to get, another top 10 guy, which is what they're probably going to secure this year somehow in this next year's draft, and then another first rounder, it's a nice core. I'm very happy about this.
And then just like as a final thought, I don't know. Well, I haven't really kept up with the NBA as much.
Sure.
But with all the second rounders that they're trying to collect, is it still just collect second rounders to take dart throws, or more to like grease up trades?
Both.
More
You need both. Like, they had 0.
I remember
they had the 76ers one, which the NBA forced the Sixers to send the Mavericks. So you just need something.
Okay, well, I hope you guys have a good night. And
well, hey man, you got anything else?
That Godzilla trailer looks sick. I'm just a little bit annoyed, I think, with the sound design that they used.
Which trailer? Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Godzilla one.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
right,
very into that one. Very into that one. All right, he just peaced out. Mr. Green, I'm going to insert some ads here, guys. You don't need to hear this on the pod, but on the video, but on the pod, I'm going to put some in, and then I'm going to bring up friend of the show, Mr. Green, who came in after a loss, which I don't think has happened in some time, but maybe he's considering Anthony Davis getting traded a win. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, and welcome Mr. Green to the show. First time, long time, because the Mavericks lost 5 or 6 straight. How you doing?
You, Kirk. I can't hear you, so
you can't hear me still?
Maybe I'll have to just quickly exit and try and jump back in. Let me try that.
Try that. Yeah, we'll wait for Mr. Green. This is you got to love the foibles of technology. Sometimes that's the way things go here. Luka Doncic went down tonight with what looks to be kind of a hamstring adjacent issue. Not great for the NBA. The Nuggets also suffered a main. Someone in the chat is asking, how can I contact you? Why would you want to contact me? You are contacting me right now through the chat. Yeah, been a rough day for injuries. Okay, we're gonna try Mr. Green again. How about now?
I can hear you.
Hey, sometimes it's a classic IT. Just turn it off and back on again.
Yeah, about 10 seconds before you threw to me, the audio went out, and I went, "Oh no, I bet he's pushed a button and he's going to speak to me next. Now I can bloody hear him." Well, so good to see you, thinking? Kirk. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of info on AJ. Obviously, he's the highlight queen at the moment, going around as a new acquisition for the Mavs. He came over here to play with the Illawarra Hawks with LaMelo Ball.
Okay.
And he couldn't get on the court. He's fucking useless. So just pipe down on any expectations of him being with the Mavs. They'll just cut him. It's interesting. I know, is it Lauren Gunn? Mm-hmm. She was putting a little bit of info up about Branham, and I replied to one of her tweets, and I was actually quite interested in Branham because he played very well with the Spurs, and he was like a really good igniter piece. But, to turn that into Jones, I mean, Jones is like the Michael Jordan of Ryan Nembhard's. So it's going to make zero difference to us. Anyone pining to give Nembhard a full-time NBA contract is delusional. His flash in the pan has been and gone. You got to give up on that guy. He's too short. defensive liability, and just can't shoot. And, he's been overwhelmed in the last 15 games I've watched. He's just been a zero. I'd hate to look at his plus minus because it would be fucking terrifyingly bad.
It's honestly been bad the whole time. Only it it looked good. He made the offense look good for a while, but the actual numbers were not great.
Like I said, his passing was good, and we had that uptick in 3-point shooting, and his passing was getting into the shooter's pocket, and I liked that, but that didn't last very long. The turnovers started to come, and then, bit of defensive pressure, and he just crumbled. So I don't want to see him in a Mavs uniform. You just need to cut your ties and let him go. Cisse is interesting because he's got so much energy. Mm-hmm. The energy definitely affects the outcomes. But I wouldn't get. I could see him becoming another Dwight Powell. You know what I mean? Yeah. If he's smart enough, and that's a very big if, because you have to say that Powell is incredibly smart. How else would you last this long in the league, especially coming back from his injury? You know what I mean? Like, he knows where to be and he knows what to do, and he's always played well when I've watched him, Dwight Powell. Yes, we've been clambering to get him off the team for the last 6 years, but that's neither here nor there. He's still around and he's still a functional player. I can see Cisse being a more energetic version of that for us moving forward. He's the only one that I would convert. I would say that you would drop AJ pretty quick. I would say that you would just get rid of Nembhard and replace him with Jones. But, man, it's looking bleak. From where we were a couple of seasons ago to where we are now, it's night and day. And, Nico Harrison's got a lot to answer for, mate, because he's destroyed the fandom that we were on the precipice of doing something great, and to have that snatched away from us is pretty awful. Middleton, mate, don't even allow him to come to Dallas. Just tell him thanks for your service, thanks for the tax break. Wish him all the best. I don't want to see him on the court. It'd be like the Hawks fans having to watch fucking CJ McCollum.
Yeah. I mean, I will say because I used to live in Washington, D.C., and I know some writers and media people there. They said his effect on the young Wizards locker room was palpable in that he helped bring order to kind of a chaotic group. And I find that interesting. The Mavericks don't need that, obviously, because they're not that young. But I don't hate Cooper Flagg interacting with as many good veteran basketball players as possible. That's,
Mate, he doesn't need that, Kirk. He doesn't need washed has-beens. He just doesn't. He gets invited as a 17-year-old to play against the American Olympic teams, right? That's where he gets that sort of institutional knowledge from. He definitely doesn't need to be influenced or talked to or mentored by fucking Chris Middleton. He just needs to, like I said, mate, just write him out the check, wish him all the best, and just move him on. He's an expiring...
That would be one way. That would be one, I think if they're interested in that would be one way to clear up the roster spot for a Cisse, which they have to figure that shit out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, mate, people complaining about what we did or didn't get back for Davis, you've got to remember, to get rid of Hardy, you would have had to have attached.
Oh my God! Just sweeping away all the players. That's the underrated element of this. They swept away 3 players I didn't like, and one that I was annoyed they signed to begin with in Exum.
Yeah. Oh, look, I didn't mind the Exum signing, but when he's unable to walk around the facility unaided, you got to move on from that. And
you can't even sign him to begin with. That was just kind of a devastating thing to have happen that early, where it's how did you not know? And it's just because Nico's a dumbass. That's how you don't know. So
and you have to admit, Exum had some amazing moments with the Mavs, but it was next to Luka. and it was a reasonably good fit. And it's the way that I like to think that you should build a basketball team. You have a 6'8" godly ball handler with amazing court vision, and pair him next to a 6'6" defensive-minded guard who will play 30 minutes without expecting more than 2 shots.
Sure.
And that was a perfect fit in that scenario. But yeah, you'd never be able to get rid of Exum. You'd never be able to get rid of Hardy. D'Lo was poison fruit. The fact that they were able to get rid of that
is remarkable.
Well, it's got to be, what's it worth? It's got to be worth 1 first and 2 seconds just to get rid of that slop as an absolute minimum. So the other guys coming back, like I said, I don't think they're going to add anything. All the players we got back, I don't think are going to add anything. Not big on Jones. I know he's had up and down, and he's a 40% 3-point shooter and all that, but it's the same problem, and it's the exact opposite of how I would build a backcourt. And what's going to happen with Jones when there's Kyrie in the picture? You know, like they can't be on the court at the same time. He's not the right fit. I would have preferred to see them have a flyer on Branham, but you know, Branham doesn't really work either. You know, because he's only 6'4", and it gets back to positional size in the front court, which is, you know, one thing I can never get over. We have to have positional backcourt size and length. You know, arm length, and that's why Spencer Dinwiddie was so good when we needed him to be good. Positional size and
big guys matter. It's like you're seeing that with the Mavericks guard, where over a 50 to 60 game sample size, Brandon Williams and Ryan Nembhard have become sporadically effective versus useful in the first 15 games because teams are like, oh yeah, that's just the small guys.
Yeah, and that's a really good way to put it, and that's why I've never been into Williams, and I've always worried when Williams has had big games, because how can you rely on that? You can't. Yeah. You just can't afford to have that guy on the court for more than 12 minutes a game, and when he's scoring like 20 plus points, it's just not a way to build and move forward with the team, in my opinion. But definitely glad that we got to send AD to purgatory. That's where he deserves to go. He deserves to rot in Washington. Such an abysmal franchise. Because, you know, the lack of effort, the lack of leadership, the lack of balls he's shown the Mavs fans and supporters, and the fake 3/4 of one game that he gave us, mate, he deserves to go to Washington. Couldn't think of anywhere better to put him. And,
I think they might actually pay him. I really do. I think they might actually pay him, which is fascinating to me because I can't possibly. It sounds crazy, but you know they're going to hold those guys out, hope for a good draft pick, and then they're going to put that draft pick with your guy. I'm kidding. Your guy Sarr, who I think is terrible and you think is terrible. And then Anthony Davis and Trae Young, who are just not like, I don't want to say they're bad basketball players, but they don't play winning basketball anymore. I mean, Davis did for a time, but like he wants it differently now.
I 100% understand why Washington's done what they've done. They've basically been able to get all-star players for second-round draft picks.
Yes,
you know, that's what I believe they've been able to do. But they're that organization. You know, they've got to fill that stadium. They've got to create a more engaged fan base. And just to help them out a little bit, Washington Post decides to tear up their sports department. So, incredible.
If you want the week of the Super Bowl, which is one of the biggest sporting events in North America, they were covering some of the weirdest stuff on that sports page. And I'm just like, guys, you got to help yourselves. Like, just help yourselves. Like, please. Anyway, what a weird franchise. But yeah, you know, like if I do recommend for you, since you consume a fair amount of Mavs stuff, you can find the Matt Riccardi Finley press conference from today. And it's kind of the polar opposite of the shit Nico was doing at this point last year. And it is some PR work. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's the kind of PR work that if you're kind of frustrated with the Mavericks and just like the whole situation, like you described earlier, it's designed to lift your spirits where they're like, we get it. We're trying. And there's something about, like, I work with a couple of 22-year-olds that I want to occasionally like just throw directly out into traffic because they're just so, and like, whenever they do something where it's like, okay, I get my mistake. I hear you. I'm trying to do better. It makes me like them so much more than the excuse making bullshit that young coworker, young people will occasionally do. It's just, it made me feel good. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a sap for this shit.
So. No, look, I'm not discounting the fact that as a Mavs fan, we have the opportunity to watch another generational talent in real time. And that keeps all of us getting tuned in, because
for sure.
When I look at who we're playing next, I go, all right, what time's the game on? Who are we losing today? Will Coop score another 30 and dunk on someone's head? That's what keeps you tuning in. And he does have the ability to do some weird shit. Like, did you see that hanging one-handed shot that he just sort of threw up against the backboard?
Was that like one of the very last ones? Was that like one of the very last buckets he made?
I think it was in the third quarter.
I didn't get a chance to watch the third quarter.
Okay. Because he's still doing some weird shit, man. He's unbelievable. And what's he going to be like at 21? That's what keeps you watching, because they only have to find another 4 guys for him to hang out with until he's 21 years of age. He puts on another 20 pounds. He works a little bit harder, realizes that maybe his vertical is not as big as it should be, starts working on that.
Which his vertical, by the way, is ridiculous. Like, he is part of why he was such a highly touted player. And this is something I think about a lot just because I have a child and I overthink this stuff. But I think in the last 10 years, we've cracked athleticism training in a big way, because like let's just be candid about it. There weren't white dudes like this in the NBA 15 years ago that are in the NBA now that are all incredible athletes. The two brothers, the lacrosse playing brothers that are now, the one that's in Memphis and the one that's in Golden State, like those dudes are incredible athletes. Yeah. So, man, what fun.
Both can shoot too.
Yes.
They both can shoot too, which helps. And that's what we're really lacking in that. Like, that's one thing that's plainly obvious watching the Mavericks basketball is just can't shoot. And Kyrie would make such a big difference to that,
His above the break 3-point shooting is so good.
But it's also that, 4 defenders are just looking to see where Kyrie is. And then that one Max Christie gets out and he's 7 foot away from any other defender and getting that clean ball into his shooting pocket. That would make all the difference. So, before the trade went down, I thought to myself, can I think about the Mavs team like this? Can I? And I'd seen a tweet that you did yesterday with Derek Lively. It'd be like a free agent signing. And I was sort of saying to myself, can I imagine a world where we make no moves, we keep all of our team, and then next year we get Kyrie Irving, Derek Lively, and AD back reasonably healthy? It'd be like the 3 best free agent signings ever, Kirk.
Well, I was being an asshole because Mark Cuban said that at one point about Tim fucking Hardaway, and I remember being so angry where I'm like, this is not like that. This is, stop selling to the fan base that they sucked at the anyway. But that tweet got a lot of traction. I was just kidding, and everybody's like, yeah.
It was Nico who said that.
Oh my god!
It was Nico that said it, Kirk.
Yeah.
Not Cuban, but yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
you're right. I remember this now.
So at a temperature from hot to cold, where are you now sitting in regards to the Mavericks last week and the Mavericks today in regards to when do you think we're going to start to see some better basketball?
I mean, that's the problem. Has the basketball been that bad? I actually think it's like, I think what's going to happen is we're going to get worse basketball. And that's going to be kind of hard to stomach through. But I mean, I would say like the temperature for how, like my positive outlook, I was messaging with Dia LLS's Bobby Corrala yesterday morning before the trade. And I said, I'm so frustrated by what the Mavericks are doing because it feels like they're making all the same mistakes that they did with Luka, where they were just, we know what's best, despite, you know, I know it's like, it's everybody's job to be experts, but the Mavericks were just in 2018, 2019, fairly arrogant that they were going to be a super duper team immediately. And I honestly think that they held the what Luka could have been back by trying to build too quickly. I think because of the financial implications of where they were over the heading towards being over the second apron, and now they're not, just like that pressure release valve, it's made me feel a lot better. Now they have to keep making moves and they have to get lucky. And those two things are difficult to do in tandem because you don't really control either element. You just have to sort of do your best and hope that there's a trade partner for some of these guys, hope you can come back for things. But compared to what I was thinking they were going to be, which was a very expensive team with a very good second-year player that was also didn't have a draft pick that year, we're moving in the right direction, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, what was really sad is that when we landed Bagley, it was really sad that we couldn't find a home for Gafford to at least recoup what we paid for Gafford. You know what I mean? Because I don't think there's a huge gap between Bagley and Gafford skill-wise. There is impact-wise. Gafford's a much more impactful player. But when you're going to basically, you know, rip out the team anyway, then you may as well see where your bricks land. So disappointed to see that we couldn't have moved off of Gaff, but he could be useful next year as a backup center if Derek Lively can stay on the court. But, you know, we might have to ship Lively off to Washington as well, mate. So, you know, who knows? We can only hold our breath and see.
For sure.
But look, thanks for
no, of course, man.
Share my opinion. Normally come in after a loss, but just wanted to chill everyone out on the AJ Johnson being, you know, the next superstar in Dallas, because mate, he couldn't get more than 7 minutes a game in an NBL game, and you've watched NBL before. There's a huge gap in athleticism, skill, and he ain't got it. So don't get too excited about him.
Sure. No, I understand. Well, thanks so much, man. Talk soon, okay?
Thanks.
All right. Mr. MJ, what's up, dude?
Hey, man, I tell you, I'm processing this trade, and it just, I mean, I'm glad he's not here. I know it helps the Mavericks build around Cooper Flagg, but it just brings yet again about how horrific this trade was with Luka.
Sure.
I mean, it just, and it makes me harken back to, it was a Friday night when he was traded. I remember that because I was driving back, you know, from seeing a friend, and I was an Uber. I think it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I got a notification.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And I, you know, like everybody saw, when they saw it, they thought, oh, it can't be true. There's no way. And then it's just, oh my God. I just, and see, the sad thing is that, like, this team doesn't look like a team that's tanking. They're competitive. I mean, if they had better 3-point shooting from Clay and from Christie, they win the game if they shoot their normal percentage. But they were ass, like y'all said.
Yeah.
And they lost. And San Antonio was a team that beat up on OKC.
OKC only played 8 guys last night and is like running into the injury bug. So that game wasn't. It looked impressive until you.
Yeah, with that SGA. No, but even before that, they owned OKC. I don't think they've lost actually to OKC this year. I could be wrong, but
I think they've lost once, but overall they beat the crap out of them in 3 games.
Right. So that's impressive, for the Mavericks to play the way they did. But each night, because I'm so used to looking forward to a Mavericks game, like when Luka played, because every night you're going to watch and there might be something that you've never seen before from him.
Sure.
And you just wanted to watch it. And not that I'm watching to see the same thing with Cooper, but I watched to think that they might win the game, but then in the back of my mind, I realized that they don't want to win because they need to lose, and that's kind of.
I mean, this team is sort of
conflicting me,
But you got to watch each. Like it depends on what I tell people is if you're following the Mavericks from afar, like you're not actually watching, it's a little easier to root for tanking. Because you're not having to pay attention. So, if you're only kind of like if you tune in for a quarter, or you really are, or if you're watching like pretty hardcore, rooting for tanking is actually quite difficult because you don't want to watch shitty basketball. So, I think what they're doing ends up being a pretty reasonable. It's about the best possible mix.
I see what you're saying.
So that's my thoughts at least.
But it's like, I mean. It's the point where, I'm kind of superstitious, and there would be things I would do, and for instance, I would turn on the AC, and then the Mavericks would, get a scoring round, stuff like that, and none of that shit's working this year. Obviously, I can't do shit. They're losing every freaking game, and Cooper though is having amazing games, and he's really showing to be a really, really good player, maybe even a great player, because his defensive acumen. But it's just, it's sad because it's like, I mean, I know what you said. I mean, but it tricks you because you think, oh my God, they because they're in another fucking clutch game. Every game is freaking, and it's not bad. I don't want, you don't want to see a 30-point blowout. But you would like them to win some of those games, and it kind of messes with your mind a little bit.
Well, they're going to win some, but I will tell you, they're so road heavy coming up that it's going to be a little bit tough. But they come out of the All-Star break with a couple of really softball games, so you'll see some wins. Don't worry.
Really?
Yep.
Do you think there's any chance that they would be able to? I mean, if they wanted to, I know if they made the play-in and somehow they would be destroyed by whatever team they play. But do you think there's any hope or any thing about them maybe making it to the play-in, or would that be stupid? Because
I don't think they actually could do it, even if it was an institutional intent. They just don't have the shooting and the horses. The ways they have to win games boils down to they have to win the rebounding battle, which they're not a great rebounding team. Win the 3-point shooting battle, which they're not a great 3-point shooting team.
Right.
And also win the turnover battle, despite not really having the correct kind of guards. So it's like with those 3 things, if they can win 2 of those 3 in a given night, they tend to be close. But their margins for error are way too narrow. Like tonight, they were right with the Spurs the whole game.
Yeah.
And then it's a 12-point loss all of a sudden. And that's just because the Spurs have a different gear to get to that the Mavs don't. So that's why you need better players. That's why you're going to find a guy in the lottery, hopefully, and we'll see what we can do from there.
Why are they so competitive though? It's not coaching, is it? I mean, they're really competitive.
Honestly, kid pisses me off to high heaven, but I think they play hard for him. I think that and there's a lot of thought around this, and a lot of it's superstition to a degree, but I think that if you if you tank as an organization and you tell everybody, like Mark Cuban did several years ago when he ended up getting fined for this, if you're like, all right, we're going to play to lose, you create a culture of losing. And the Mavericks currently are losing basketball games, but I don't think their culture is that of, okay, well, we're fine with this. Like these guys are mad when they lose.
Right.
Games. It's like Cooper is pissed. Somebody pointed, Bill Simmons pointed out that like after he missed like a game winner the other night, maybe it was against the Rockets. His teammate left him left him alone because they knew he didn't want to be consoled because he was pissed. And that's I think that speaks to him as a competitor. And so that's the sort of stuff that you don't want to be falling into like the Bobcats, like the Charlotte Bobcats, who are just losing game after game after game and then hoping they would win the lottery. Like you can't bring a good player doesn't necessarily fix a bad situation. So
let me ask you this: who do you think is a more tough competitor, Luka or Cooper?
Very different kinds of competitors. I would say Cooper burns cold while Luka burns hot. Like,
what do you mean by that?
Luka is very demonstrative in his emotions and his play.
Right.
Cooper, when Cooper gets hit and when Cooper does something, he kind of turns inward and it fuels him that way. He is not going to be like he does scream and yell after something cool, but he's not like barking at the fans and barking with other players. He lets so it's like it's two very different displays of athleticism, or I'm sorry, competitiveness.
So like for instance, when the fans when they chide Luka, if they chide Cooper, you don't think he would ever like talk back and do the stuff that Luka does, right?
But like Luka is a borderline professional wrestler with how he engages with the crowd. You know,
that's well put. All right, I appreciate it, man. Nice talking to you.
All right, talk soon. All right, somehow another hour and a half show. You guys are great. I will see you guys on Saturday night. Everybody be good. Go Mavs.